So today is the opening of Infinite's applications to be sponsored for next year. And so I wanted to give a couple tips to somebody who is only 992 rated. When I got sponsored first by Infinite, I was 988 rated. Not the best disc golfer, do have solid social media, but I was able to get a nice sponsorship from a company like Infinite. And I also reached out to some of the people who are making the decisions on the applications specifically, as well as some of the higher ups, to get a couple of thoughts as to how you should get sponsored by Infinite specifically, but I think it applies to any company that you want to get sponsored by. My first thought is that there are two different types of sponsorships in disc golf right now. There's kind of an ambassadorship, and then there's paid sponsorships. Ambassadorships are going to be like street teams, Discraft Underground, and Infinite is kind of combining a couple of their different teams at this level to just have one core ambassador squad. And with that type of sponsorship, what you're going to be getting from a company is mostly going to be some apparel so that you can represent them when you're out on the course, discs more than likely, as well as a discount code to buy things at a cheaper rate, and access to probably a team-only store like Infinite has, so you can get discs like the coveted team-stamped discs. That one might have got scribbled on by Isaac Robinson before he was a two-time world champion. For these type of sponsorships, I think being a big fan of the brand is one of the most important things, because one, you want to be my daughter Bogey's over there. One, you want to be authentic and you don't want to be pushing product or forced to throw plastic that you don't actually want to throw just for the sake of being sponsored. But two, the company who wants to sponsor you or give you this ambassador level sponsorship wants to make sure that you're bought in, because they only have a specific number of these, and especially as you've seen, the disc golf market has kind of been pretty constant to maybe in a little bit of a decline, so there's a little bit less money going around right now, and so sending out this free apparel and discs and discounts is something that is a cost to the manufacturer or the retailer who's looking to sponsor you, so they want to make sure that they get somebody who could be a good investment for them. And the way that I see getting sponsorships on all three of these levels is one, being a good community partner in your local community in disc golf, where that means you're a tournament director, you just participate a lot in the local clubs, you show up to all the leagues. Two, you have good social media presence. And three, you're a good disc golfer. Those are kind of the three avenues, and you don't need all three of them. Like, you don't need to be a phenomenal disc golfer to get sponsored by Infinite or honestly a lot of other companies. I think I'm a pretty good example of that, seeing as the team that I'm on the tour team, basically just because I'm getting paid, but that's mostly because I have really solid social media and was able to get sponsored, having 30 to 40,000 subscribers and I think 3 to 4 million views on YouTube at that time. So there was tangible value there for a company. In the same way, if you're really involved in your local community or you have a smaller social media, but you're just looking for an ambassadorship, those are still valuable to brands, even if you're not a high-rated disc golfer. But if you are a high-rated disc golfer and you don't have any of those other things, there's a lot of that out there. And so having something else that can be tangibly valuable for a brand can be very helpful. So I'd say having 2 out of the 3 of those can be really good. More than ever, companies are wanting to be pickier about their applications, so be pretty thoughtful as you fill them out. And 2 quick tips for that. 1, make sure you actually fill out the application. If there's a brand that you want to get sponsored by, they're going to have an application window. I would be aware of when that is. Reach out to the brand. If you know people on the team, ask them how they got sponsored. And again, being a good disc golfer can help, but it's not 100% necessary, especially if you have some social media or you're really involved in your local community, and you can show that, because that is very valuable to any brand. And 2, this is kind of something that has surprised some people when I've told them before, is don't think that companies are just going to reach out to you. Even if you do have a social media presence, even if you are a really good disc golfer, there's a lot of really good disc golfers in kind of like that not top 100 in the world, top 50 in the world range. I would call this like maybe 970 to 1010. There's a lot of disc golfers in that kind of category. And there's a lot of people who have some sort of social media. But you should expect that the onus should be on you to reach out to these companies or to apply for these sponsorships. For instance, the sponsorship that I have with Infinite, they're obviously my first choice. I love working with them, and I'm going to be continuing on with them into 2025, which I'm very grateful for. But even though I had over 30,000 subscribers on YouTube, was getting hundreds of thousands of like long form, really solid views on my YouTube channel, and had over 100,000 returning viewers every month to my channel over the course of 2023, really no one reached out to me to sponsor me. I had to reach out to people to get sponsored, which isn't something bad to say about any companies, but they're busy and they have a lot of things on their plate and a lot of different avenues that they can put their allocations for marketing, which is essentially what sponsorship is. So if you're looking to get sponsored, expect that you're going to be the one who's doing the reaching out so that you can get that sponsorship. And since sponsoring disc golfers is only one avenue of kind of a marketing structure for a company, their budget might already be full with other players or other things, and building that relationship even starting out can be helpful to look to get sponsored more in the future. One of the quotes that I love is, closed mouths don't get fed. So you need to speak up if you want to eat. Metaphorically, of course. For paid sponsorships, I feel a little bit more nebulous on this. The path is a little bit more varied person to person, depending on kind of what you offer a company. If you have a massive following, if you are a top 10 disc golfer, but either way, you're going to need to have something that shows tangible value to a company for them to kind of hand over actual money to you to sponsor you, especially if it's like a salary or upfront basis. Because not only are you getting paid by their brand, but you're also a representation of them. So if they're going to be investing actual dollars into you, they want to make sure that they're not only getting a good investment return, but that they're also getting a good brand return. That people will see you and their brand associated together and make a positive association rather than a negative one. These negotiations also, I think, start with these same applications. I would just write more information about what you're interested in. I actually, when I did this, I ended up putting together kind of like a little pitch deck of like, hey, this is how many discs I've sold by myself. This is my following. This is my rating and who I am as a player. Obviously, that is the smallest part of all of this for me. But I sent that out to the companies that I was potentially interested in sponsoring me. But these negotiations are going to go different from person to person. But either way, especially where disc golf is right now, without a lot of outside media feeding into the disc golf ecosystem, having some sort of your own social media or being a part of somebody else's social media because you're so good that you're always on coverage or you're always in someone else's vlogs or someone else's content who does have a solid social media presence, those are going to be the things that are important because attention and eyeballs are valuable to companies. And so getting more viewership and a more engaged audience who cares about what you have to say are important things in terms of getting a paid sponsorship. And I think those start more with real direct conversations with companies. So I don't really have a lot of additional thoughts on that. That being said, there's 2 quotes that I reached out to specific people at Infinite. The first comes from someone who's actually going to be reviewing applications, and the second comes from a higher up. So kind of like the idea behind getting sponsored from Infinite specifically. But I think this applies really well to everybody who wants to get sponsored by anybody, whether that's Infinite or not. First quote is, the main thing is we just want people who love Infinite and want to interact with us and the team all year. We want 3 types of people: great players, people who are super active on socials, and tournament directors. And again, they're saying active on socials, not you have the biggest social presence, because there's always opportunity to grow there. So the most important quote, in my opinion, though, comes from one of the higher ups at Infinite. And this is kind of what I'm going to leave you with. We want people who love the brand because they're the people who make the difference. So make sure that if you are trying to get sponsored by a company, you like what they're about, you have similar values, and you love the brand. You've been a customer from them before, you throw their discs in your bag, and you can explain that on your application because the people who love the brand the most are the people who are going to make the biggest difference. So apply to those teams that you're interested in. Infinite's application will be linked down in the description of this video. It's open from today, and it'll close at the date that is specified in the description. So hopefully we're on the same team next year, or whichever team that you are more interested in. But I hope that these tips helped you if you're looking to get sponsored in disc golf. Bye.